Make a note in the diary, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Thursday, the 23rd of September. This is the GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series, and we may well be able to crown a champion. 1 hour of Spa-Francorchamps will possibly decide what has been an incredibly intense series, and to talk you through all of the action will be myself, Paul Jeffrey, and a man who has lent his voice to many different racing series and a surname that nobody can spell. It is Mr. Ben Constanduros.
It's spelt correctly today, though, isn't it? And we are also at the very favourite circuit of mine in the world. I love Spa-Francorchamps. This year, people have been taking the mickey out of me because I love Spa-Francorchamps. I'm a bit confused because we've got shots of rain, we've got shots of sun, and we've got shots of darkness. And that pretty much sums up Spa-Francorchamps in a nutshell. But what are we going to be racing in?
Yeah, it really does. It is one of those tracks that has a microclimate all of its very own. It can be glorious one moment and soaking wet the next, as we see our drivers up on screen putting the final bits of preparation in. As I said, anybody at home, welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's the morning, the afternoon or the evening, depending on where you are in the world. And this is the GT World Challenge Asia Esports Sprint Series. Ben, it's been a while since you and I have shared a commentary box together, and this one looks like a very exciting prospect indeed, with the championship very much on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Such has been the dominance of Dayne Warren this year. 3 wins out of 3 that we come to round 4 with a 5-round championship, and he could, in theory, mathematically seal the deal. Look how much of an advantage he's got over Maulana, who was effectively our champion last year, although obviously in a slightly different guise. And it's really exciting to see the field spread of people who have been on the podium, but ultimately, winner's always been the same.
Yeah, exactly. Consistency has been a very important part of Dayne Warren and Andika Ramamalana and Fadli Rachma as well at the top of the field. A big point spread. You can see Andrew Lawrenson for the Laundry House team in 4th position there, 24 points. So he's got an opportunity to move up the running order. Only 10 points separating 2nd to 4th place. Nazik Aslan in 5th position for Axel Sports and the Bentley Continental GT3 has 18 points to his name. Joint with the 2nd Laundry House runner, Ryan Houlihan, the Australian driver, providing plenty of excitement over the course of this season so far. Avila Bahar, unfortunately, will not be present in this race, so he's likely to drop down the running order if the likes of Dylan Tan and Kelvin Chen can put in a good result and score some points against their name. But one of the big dramas, of course, is there was a no score last time out for Fadli Rachmat, so he's got a lot of work to do, as does the likes of some of these drivers just outside of the top 10. Mia Rose, our female contingent for the Jean Alesi Esports Academy, scoring points last time out for the first time this season. And in 15th place, Philippa Bakida, our 2nd female driver, racing for Octane Online Racing in the McLaren 720S GT3. Philippa, another very, very fast driver. And Ben, if you cast your mind back to last season, we saw a lot of Philippa and Mia at the sharp end of the grid, but they've not quite managed to convert that pace that we know they've got into good results this season.
Interesting to see how the drivers that, yes, as you say, last year I know very well, the Laundry House team and the likes of Mia Rose and Philippa Bakida right at the sharp end of the field, how they seem to have been eclipsed this year. And I guess across the whole of the ACC platform, they seem to be eclipsed by Coanda SimSports. Whether you look at the eSport, or whether you look at the Asia or the European Series or all the different championships got around the world, they feature so heavily, and they weren't featuring last year at all. They've chosen to come in here and really just laid the gauntlet.
Absolutely, VRS are a really, really strong squad. Let's have a quick look actually at some of the drivers that will be taking part in the race today. Just like in SRO competition, throughout everything, the European, the Americas, the British and the Asia series, we have the top 5 drivers progress through race on race, and the rest of the drivers qualify through a hot lap competition. So we've got many names that you will recognise from previous races, and then a few new names into the list as well. Drivers such as Damon Woods, Brett May. Damon Woods actually will not be taking part, unfortunately, again today. So that's another driver who, for last minute, has to pull out of the race for personal reasons. But Nigel Chua, Legion of Racers, another strong set of cars from the Legion of Racers team. Expect them to do well over the course of the day. Fadli Rashmat, that we spoke about earlier, third in the championship, still looking to try and eke his way up the standings before the season's out. Dayne Warren, maybe not a potential champion at the end of the day for VRS Coanda Simsport, once again in the very potent Bentley Continental GT3. Expect that car to go quickly around Spa-Francorchamps. Mitch Hobbs, BDE Motorsport, Honda NSX. Great to see Honda represented on the grid. Be interesting to see how Mitch gets on over the course of this race. Sky Live for the Lamborghini Huracan team as well. Another great brand. Maybe not quite as suited to Spa-Francorchamps as some of the other cars on this grid, but as we saw in the shots earlier, Ben, weather could and probably will have a lot to say over the course of this race.
That throws the cat amongst the pigeons, doesn't it? Because the consistency that these guys enjoy when in sim racing is why they are able to bang in laps, lap after lap, at exactly the same pace, without any interruptions. But in the real world and on ACC, there are so many more variables, and that's what I love about this championship, this platform, is that so Dayne Warren has dominated, so he probably is going to win the championship. But if he gets a no score and we get some decent point scores from Maulana and Rashmat behind, then it throws it open. If we do get rain, or if we are racing in the dark, those are the big variables that will disrupt Dayne's rhythm.
Well, absolutely. This championship is not over by any stretch of the imagination. There is a heck of a lot of racing still to go. We've got 1 hour ahead of us, and just to I'll quickly take the opportunity to remind everybody at home what is in store for this race. It's a 60-minute event. There will be a mandatory pit stop through a mandatory pit stop window, which lasts for 10 minutes and opens at the halfway mark of the race. During that mandatory window, drivers must come in to the pit lane. They must stop in their box and take a minimum of 1 litre of fuel. They don't have to change tyres, but they can do if they wish. And then we are just racing to the checkered flag. We are looking to score points. Strategy, speed, staying out of trouble, and contending with whatever weather conditions may be presented to you. They're the keys to success here. And Ben, we're going to have a look at qualification in a moment, but just how important is qualifying at a track like this?
Actually, you know what? There are certain tracks like Misano last time up, which is quite important, but Spa, it's easy to overtake around here. With big braking zones, really high speeds, and yes, they're really big, challenging corners. So there's one particular corner that is a very good braking zone up the inside of the first right-hander, but then you have to then go round the left-hander, which puts you on the disadvantage, and then you've got the inside for the right before you head down to Rivage, or whatever you want to call it, Bruxelles these days. And so actually qualifying is important, and yes, you don't want to be at the tail end of a 40 person grid, but ultimately I think we can still see good racing, and actually sometimes leading the pack can be a disadvantage because you're creating a hole for everyone behind.
Of course, and you're the first one into whatever track conditions and weather conditions that our drivers have to overcome as well. And make no mistake, folks at home, the quality of this field, the level of skill and pace that's being displayed by the Asia Series drivers in sprint and endurance format has just been incredible. So even if you're qualifying mid-pack or towards the back end of the grid, you're still an incredibly fast esport driver. So you have a bad qualification, you've got some work to do, but in 60 minutes and with a pit window, there's some opportunities as well for you to make your way through the grid. And we've seen this, Ben, haven't we, across the whole SRO realm of championships. Strategies of when to come into pit lane have often decided race positions, haven't they?
And how to pit as well. I guess most of these guys will have now nailed the technique of pitting, because sometimes doing it manually and doing all of the different steps yourself can be a far greater benefit than allowing the computer to control your whole pit stop. So the temptation, of course, is to go automatic, but then if you do that, you end up losing 3 or 4 seconds, and that can be the difference between winning and losing. So there is the choice of timing as to when to go in for track position and not finding yourself in traffic and all those kind of permutations. And that's where a big team around you will be spotting for you to work out where you will fall into the traffic, especially with a big rig like this. But actually, how you then pit. We don't have to do tyres, we don't have to do fuel. You have to do 1 litre of fuel. But ultimately, every pit stop should be exactly the same. It should be exactly the same amount of time, but we see race on race, the variables then creep in of how hard have you attacked the pit lane speed limiter, how have you actually processed your pit when you've been static, and all those things. Here's the grid then for you.
Let's have a look. No surprises whatsoever. Dayne Warren is our pole position man, ahead of Tanky Long in the Ferrari 488. Philippa Bikida, that we spoke about at the top of the show, is 3rd position for her best qualification day to date in the McLaren 720S. Ryan Dong in 4th position for Lexus. Good to see Lexus running so far up the running order in the number 281 that you see on your screen there. Andika Ramamalana, fighting for the championship, will have to fight very hard indeed from 5th position on the grid. The Ferrari not quite on the pace of our championship leader, and alongside him for extra confusion is Fadley Rachmat, the 2nd of the championship challengers, 3rd in the championship standings, 6th on the grid and rounding out row 3. Pratima lines up in P7 ahead of the first of the laundry house cars that you see just in the back of your shot with that iconic livery there. That is Ryan Houlihan in the number 999 machine. In 9th position is Luis Moreno for a 2nd Lexus in the top 10. Incredible to see Lexus being a little bit more competitive here at Spa-Francorchamps than we've seen them during the course of the season so far, and Moreno has Kevin Chen for company in the number 117 Porsche 911 GT3R. That rounds out the top 10 positions, and Yang in 11th place ahead of the 2nd of the laundry house cars. There you see him just towards the back of his shot. That is Andrew Lawrenson in the 911 Porsche. Now Lawrenson has been a driver who's been incredibly quick this season as well, so expect to see him moving up the running order. Singh is 13th, unlucky for some, in the Lamborghini, ahead of Kevin Huang in 14th position, with Nigel Chua in the fastest of the Mercedes cars on the grid, P15. Mia Rose, our 2nd female driver, is 16th on the grid for the Jean Alesi Esports Academy concern. She's ahead of Clampano in 17th place in the Lamborghini. In P18th we have Lee, the number 969 Mercedes AMG driver, is just ahead of Yim in P19, and in 20th position we have Lai. In 21st position, a disappointing qualifying for the number 26 Audi R8 LMS Evo is Shaquille, ahead of Yuki Shirakawa in 22nd position. Adzafar is 23rd ahead of Melvin Moe in the number 23 Mercedes, Ho in P25, Fai Cheng in P26. In 27th position is Pritev Sudhakar, again another driver who'll be a little bit disappointed in the Ferrari to be so far down the running order. Karadin in 28th, Koss in 29th, and Baldwin rounding out the top 30 runners. Lee, Mironenko, Mabry, Madison, Hobbs, Wang, Hunter, Ho, Chotimba and Siberis round out the top 40. And then on the very final row of the grid, we've got Asake in 41st position for Honda and Andrei Abrazeki in 42nd position, 2.9 seconds away from the pace in his AMR V8 Vantage GT3. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, a stacked grid of 42 drivers. The weather, Ben Constantiouris, looks a little bit ominous on these shots, and I think we've got a pretty exciting hour ahead of us.
This will then throw the strategy into a completely different frame. You are going to be waiting. It looks dry at the moment, I think, but you're going to be waiting for the rain to come, and therefore the pit window, I don't know, if you pit outside the pit window, this is where we're going to have to start looking through our rule books. Pit outside the pit window, and presumably you still have to do another pit stop in the pit window. So if you need to change onto wet tyres outside of the pit window, then that won't count as your actual pit stop. You'll have to come in again. Whereas if you can do a couple of extra laps, depending on when the rain falls, or is it wet already? I can't actually tell from my monitor, but we'll soon see from the lap times. I think it's still dry.
Yeah, it's still dry out on circuit, but those clouds look heavy. Those clouds look ominous in the sky. And this is Spa. We've talked about it before. Last time I was at Spa in the real world, it was 40 degrees, believe it or not, on Saturday. And on Sunday, it rained that heavy, they had to red flag the race.
So that was a Spa, Paul. That was not Spa.
Yeah, quite literally the least exciting Spa in the world, that rain, I'll tell you. But it just goes to show, doesn't it, Ben, that it's such a big circuit. Things can change in an absolute heartbeat. And these drivers, they'll have a plan A, they'll have a plan B, they'll have a plan C. And as you mentioned earlier, they'll have a team of people ready to jump in with any kind of off-the-cuff strategy decisions as well.
I think you've got to just wait. The pit lane will open, the pit window will open, and you've just got to wait until the last moment to pit and hope that the rain falls during that time, that it's the right moment. You're putting yourself a little bit at risk to miss the closing of the pit window, which would obviously incur a massive time penalty. I think it's something like 130 seconds we've seen in some of the Pro Series events that have happened on site at SRO events this year, if you miss the pit window. But I think that's the only way forward, because this rain, they'll probably have a bit more information. They'll know more or less when the rain is likely to come, but you will be waiting for that moment.
Now, let's make a prediction. We've talked so much about rain. I guarantee this will be an entirely dry race for the duration after all of this drama. But we'll get to that as and when we do get to that. Well, at the moment, what the drivers are doing, for anybody who's new to the series, this is a rolling start procedure that we have in SRO Esports competition. So the drivers have what we consider a warm-up lap, a sighting lap, where they go around, just get the tyres, the brakes, and themselves in order and ready to go before lining up 2 by 2 to take the green flag on the start-finish straight. And Ben, as a driver, what are you doing at this stage in the race? Are you just killing time to get to the green flag, or have you got a process to go through here?
As you well know, on the heads-up display of each of these drivers, they'll be able to see exactly how much the tyres and the brakes are at temperature. Are they too cold? Are they too hot? Which bits of the tyre are at temperature? Are the brakes at temperature? So you're trying to get yourself into a window so that when you go into that first corner, everything is working perfectly. And actually, unlike the real world where you don't necessarily have that data, here you can really see, okay, I've got it on. I know that when I hit the brakes at the bus stop chicane, I can bring the brakes up to a good temperature so that when we go into the first braking zone, and actually the first braking zone of the lap is, remember, we're using the endurance start line, so we're going down the hill, and the first corner is Eau Rouge. So you're not braking there, you're braking at Lecombe, so you've already built maximum velocity before standing on the brakes the first time. So you really do want to make sure the brakes especially are up to temperature. Very difficult to get things up to temperature at this kind of speed, but they'll do their very best. And there is Eau Rouge. That's the place where they will be going side by side through and trying desperately to be careful and patient with their competitors.
Careful and patient on an opening lap are two words seldom used when it comes to Spa-Francorchamps, so hopefully all our drivers will be able to navigate their way through this very, very tricky and dangerous first phase of the race. Murray Walker once said that you cannot win a race in the first corner, but you can most certainly lose one, and that is good advice that our drivers will need to take on board today. As now we come round the bus stop chicane, the recently reprofiled bus stop chicane. We're going 2 by 2 and getting ready to take this green flag. This is the traditional start-finish straight many of you will be familiar with from Formula 1 racing. Of course, we're not going onto the green at this section. We will go down into the La Source hairpin, still under safety car conditions, and then run, as Ben said, to the run down into Eau Rouge, up Radion, down the Kemmel Straight, as we are, ladies and gentlemen, this is GT World Challenge Asia Esports Sprint Series Round 4, Can we see Dayne Warren crowned champion today? He's given himself the best chance possible from pole position. Alongside him, Dylan Tang Q Long trying to find a way past. We're looking for the start-finish straight. The revs are beginning to rise. The excitement begins to rise. We have got a green flag, and round 4 of the Asia Series is go as we're running now into Eau Rouge for the very first time. Dayne Warren converts pole position into an early race lead as 42 cars stream into the corner. Let's contact further down the running order. A couple of cars into the barrier on the outside, but our race leaders make it through just about. Philippa Bakina on the slipstream now for the run down into the comp. Bakina to the outside, Q Long on the inside. Can Bakina do it on the brakes? Yes, she can, but she runs deep. That's going to lose her time as well. And Ben, drama right at the very off.
Yeah, somebody trying to cut across Eau Rouge as they were going up the hill there onto the grass and got spat across to the left-hand side. They were running around 25th position but collected a decent few amount of cars. So we'll find out exactly who that was a bit later on. Philippa Bakita with a great start, but just a little bit too brave around the outside into Lecom, and unfortunately, therefore, as you said, losing a bit of momentum and falling into the chasing pack as we look down into the middle of the pack here.
Yeah, but I heard in our ear that it was Baldwin and Huang was involved in the little altercation on the run up the hill through Eau Rouge. Now, as we're looking at Shaquille, 19th position, so made up a couple from the start for Shaquille, but he's under pressure from Shirakawa behind as well. So Shirakawa now trying to buy into this fight as well in the Aston Martin, under significant pressure from the chasing packet. This is what the drivers need to do. This is the early running of the race. Everybody's got cold tyres, cold brakes. They're getting into the swing of things. This is your best opportunity to get a cheap overtaking manoeuvre on your rival, as we saw from Bakida at the front of the field. She went a little bit too deep, trying to find a way past in a second position, and when everybody's unsettled, Ben, this is where you've really got to make a stake for your claim on that position, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Whilst those tyres and brakes are not quite up to temperature yet, but I think looking at the conditions, we might have that sort of similar situation throughout the whole of this race. Oh, big sliding off! And just cold tyres and right in the middle of the pack, and this is going to be chaos. Huge crash.
Oh, massive, massive drama. All started from Shaquille losing the rear of the car. Everybody seemingly getting involved in the bottom half of the field. There's plenty of disappointment there as Mia Rose tries to find her way past further up the field. Mia Rose makes contact with one of the Laundry House cars. That's Lawrenson. Mia Rose straight into the rear of Andrew Lawrenson in the Laundry House machine. That spins Lawrenson round. Rose manages to recover back onto the racetrack, but losing armfuls of position. And Mia Rose a little bit too excitable in the early stages of this race, and the Jean Alesi driver makes contact in just the outskirts of the top 10.
Yeah, Haifang looks like he's going to pull off and out of the race. Mia Rose will be carrying a little bit of damage from that. Lawrenson did recover to 9th position, so in terms of the championship, remember he's 4th in the championship, and that's a decent half recovery, although now he's dropping down the field as we go through the next split. So we've got to wait to Lecom before we register his proper position, and yeah, he's down in 25th and more, so that is a disaster for Andrew Lawrenson, who is so strong. And again, there's a few dive bombs going on a bit further back in the pack, isn't there? And Shaquille has had another spin at Radion, so I think, not sure that car is particularly happy. He must have been pummeled by about 4 or 5 different GT3 cars, having a big crash at Blanchimont and then another one at Radion. He's ticking all the boxes, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, once you've got some damage on this car, it's trying to find the balance of where your car is at any given stage. But somebody else that's worth keeping an eye on is Fadli Rakhmat, that we saw for a few moments there, 3rd in the championship. He's managed to avoid the vast majority of the dramas, shall we say, to be running 7th at this stage in the race. Ryan Houlihan, you can see just ahead in the Laundry House machine. So Rakhmat doing solid work so far, trying to keep early stages of the race, keep the car on the grey stuff, just let things filter out, try and get your natural running order before you start pushing further up the field. Now Nigel Chua, 18th position, he's somebody that's not waiting for anything, is the Legion of Racers driver. Nigel Chua all the way into the slipstream of Ho ahead of him, coming down now to the fastest section of the racetrack. A very, very nice run as we head down into the bus stop chicane. Looks to the outside, the inside's being covered firmly by the car ahead, but Chua nowhere to find a way past just yet. He'll hope to get a good exit from this for a run down into the La Source hairpin, but a little bit compromised on corner exit in the Mercedes. Not quite as good off the corners as the Aston Martin ahead, and Nigel Chua will will continue this fight for another lap.
Loving his setup there. Got the VR goggles on. I love a pair of VR goggles. I'm a big fan of that. And when I'm on ACC, I'm using... Philippa Bakida from third position. She's out and into the pit lane, so a reset for her. And that's a disaster also, running so well in the podium positions. And she has bailed out the race, so we'll try and see what happened to her. That she was putting up a good fight, actually, to get herself up into second position. And unfortunately has pushed too hard. But just going back to Nigel Chua, he's got a fan there on the left-hand side, keeping his face cool. I think I would have the fan in front of me just to add to a little bit more realism, because a breeze from the left-hand side might confuse my brain a bit, especially with VR goggles. All those different things do definitely play out. And as we now look at Baldwin further down, 27th position.
Yeah, this is Jake Baldwin that's involved in a bit of the contact at the early stage of this race on the run-up. If you remember, on the opening lap, the run-up through Eau Rouge, Baldwin was one of the drivers involved in that drama, and that has put him down into 27th position for the happy laps number 449 Lexus. So disappointing start for Baldwin, but he's still got plenty of time in which to see if he can recover his position. Andrew Lawrenson for Laundry House is the next car up the road, so we know Lawrenson's got plenty of pace. If Baldwin can attach himself to the rear of that Porsche, that will do him plenty of good, but you can see the damage on that Lexus now, and Hobbs actually is more interested in trying to find a way past, and Baldwin is making a move up the grid as Shaquille now comes into pit lane, as does Melvin Moe, so likely that is going to be another couple of retirements. It's been a bit of a dramatic start to the race, Ben, a little bit more so than maybe we anticipated and have seen this season, and a bit of end of season vibes coming from some of these drivers. Now we're looking at Sek Ying Ho. That's great shots. We see the picture in picture there for the Z Challenger Racing number 27 car. This is the Aston Martin, 16th position, so not in the points paying positions at this moment in time, but Sek Ying Ho trying very hard to find a way past the similar car of Mia Rose ahead. Rose, remember, was running inside the top 10 till making contact with the rear of Lawrenson, so Rose might be carrying a little bit of damage at this stage in the race, but still showing good pace just behind Luis Moreno, with Yuri Shirakawa holding up the cork in the bottle, so to speak. So Sek Ying Ho has plenty of work to do, and he's also got Nigel Chua for company behind as well.
In terms of the championship then, Dayne Warren, our championship leader, is leading and with a healthy advantage over Maulana, who I think should be in third position now. And Rashmat, who's third in the championship, is down in sixth spot. So that is very much advantage Dayne Warren, of course, in the championship to seal the deal. And as we said, Andrew Lawrenson, fourth in the championship, down to 26th position now. Yes, there's a long way to go, and especially with these kind of variable conditions, things could easily change for Dayne Warren, but it's looking good for him. And even if he doesn't score, Maulana still needs a decent haul of points to keep the championship alive going into the next round. So even if we see a DNF from Dayne Warren, it still could be over.
Yeah, it's really looking good for Dayne Warren. He's on a roll, as you say. He won the first three races of the season, took pole position here at Spa-Francorchamps and continues to lead this race. And most importantly, as you say, Ben, is Andika Ramamalana is not in the fight for victory at this moment in time. Currently third position, so a little bit too far away from where he needs to be at this stage in the race. So very much it is game on for Dayne Warren as we're looking down. Mia Rose, look how hard she's working on the steering wheel. That Aston Martin has a little bit of damage, but it's not holding her back at this stage, so Rose will be furious with herself for that mistake down in the hairpin, and she knows that today's a very good opportunity to score some solid points and help her in the fight to become the highest ranking female driver in the championship. Remember, Philippa Bakida has 6 points to her name so far this season, but Bakida having a nightmare retiring early from the race, so this is a good opportunity for Mia Rose to get a few more points in what is a very open race so far. The field not spreading apart, particularly at this moment in time, 10 minutes in.
Yeah, only 10 minutes in. So once we've now kind of started to establish the order, people will start to settle down a bit, get into a rhythm of just banging in the laps and seeing how the race comes to them. If the people around them are making mistakes, that's the kind of, yes, it's still really a sprint race. Although in theory, 1 hour races are slightly enduro with a pit stop, but they will be. They'll be trying to find a rhythm. I think that's really important. If you get distracted too much by other people, then you do end up making lots more mistakes. They just need to get into a rhythm of running their race and see how things come to them as the race progresses, especially pre-pit stop. Things could be very different once we've got that window open and shut again.
While you were saying that, Ben, Brian Itzavar just pulled a sensational overtaking manoeuvre on Kinlong Lee, coming down into Lacombe, I believe that was, around the outside in the braking zone for the Clown Team number 37 car. So Itzavar earns himself ninth position for that manoeuvre. Meanwhile, we're seeing instant on lap 1 involving cars 930 and car 45. A stop-go for the 930 machine. That is Saberas in the Lexus for Crypto Racing. So Saberas will serve a stop-go penalty. And Ben, that is such a painful penalty at Spa-Francorchamps, which has, quite frankly, the longest pit lane in the season.
Yeah, because you enter at the bus stop chicane, you run along the Formula 1 pit lane, and then when you get to the point where the Formula 1 pit lane exits back onto track, you then continue round the hairpin and down the endurance pits, the original Formula 1 pit lane, and then you've got to go down to the bottom of Eau Rouge. That's where the pit lane speed limiter ends, but you then run up at Radiant as a different line to the actual racetrack, and you only blend in post Radiant a third of the way up the Kennel Straight. So a hugely long pit lane for GT3 cars, and any drive-through penalty is, I don't know, 2.5, 3 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, that is a real pain for Saberas now. So that's pretty much taken the Crypto Racing car out of contention. But somebody still very much in it is Mia Rose. We're looking at it now, 16th position still. We see a drive-through penalty for number 10 as well. So that's a drive-through penalty for Chris Sang Chun Ho in the Z Challenger Racing Machine in 21st position at this moment in time. This is Kyle Yim that we're looking at now. Under massive pressure, Yim under massive pressure from Shirakawa behind. Shirakawa having a very, very good start to this race. In 13th position is the Japanese driver, number 39, all over the rear of Yim. Can he find a way past further back as well as we go down into the braking zone side by side? Both cars give each other enough racing room, just about, and that is a position gain, a position held, should I say, for the 13th place car. So great bit of driving there, but Moreno has not given up on this one. Luis Moreno wants that position. He's seen Shirakawa make the move earlier in the lap, and now he fancies his chances as well, does Luis Moreno in the Lexus, as he drops back a little bit now. So yo-yoing backwards and forwards of these cars, trying to just fight for position.
Great bit of action there, and still yellow flags fluttering around the circuit. So much going on in this race for the everything but the front of the field, which is really, really quiet. We've got a drive-through penalty for track limits. So a drive-through penalty, I was a bit generous saying it was 2 to 3 minutes. It's 80 seconds that will cost you for a drive-through penalty. Anything other than that, stop-go. But a drive-through penalty for track limits actually is quite rare in ACC. You get it a lot on other platforms, but the process in which the computer understands how you have cut the track generally gives you a couple of warnings before you get a chance to actually be penalised, unless you take a massive cut, for instance on this bus stop chicane, completely ignoring the bus stop chicane, and then you have an advantage by cutting, and then the game will give you a penalty. But most of the time, an off track, for instance, like a 1X, for instance, on other platforms, you don't really have that here. It tends to end up just being a warning and a slapped wrist.
Yeah, that is unfortunate this early in the race. But ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves into your seat. We have now got a race on for 5th position. Ryan Houlihan in the Laundry House McLaren ahead. Fadli Rahmat trying to find a way past in P6. He needs that result for the championship. He needs to work his way up the order, and they're separated by next to nothing. Meanwhile, further down the order, this is Carradine now on the inside in the big BMW. He finds a way past as his second. We're going back to Radman again around the outside into Lecombe. Does he have enough pace alongside Houlihan? Houlihan gives him just about enough room. He uses all the curb and more, does Fadli Rahmat round the outside onto the AstroTurf. A little bit of contact touring car style between these two drivers. Reichmatt still to the outside. Ryan Houlihan on the inside has the optimal line, gets the launch, closes that door, but Fadley Reichmatt trying every single trick in the book in the Bentley Continental, but Ryan Houlihan was just about the equal to him in that race, and Ben, these two are fighting with everything they've got.
Well, great action from Reichmatt, trying always on the wrong line, to be honest, but he needs as many points as possible for the championship. He's one of very few people that can stop the championship from being sealed today, so it's no wonder he's pushing hard, and just needs to work out a better way of putting Houlihan on the bad part of the track rather than him trying to go around the outside, because honestly he had the possibility of making it work going through Speaker's Corner. That was where the move would have ended, but unfortunately just didn't quite have the momentum to go all the way around the outside at Bruxelles, and therefore couldn't retain that inside position going in. But certainly Reichmatt is the faster of the two cars. Look, so much stronger through Blanchimont, but again pulls to the outside line, and that's going to be a real tricky move to get done through the bus stop chicane.
It is indeed, but this has got the air of inevitability written all over it now. That Bentley Continental is incredibly quick in the hands of Fadley Reichmatt, especially in a straight line. We've got a good slipstream in opportunities. We come down through into what is the first corner for the Grand Prix loop, but the final corner here at Spa-Francorchamps for the GT cars. And now this is the opportunity Reichmatt needs to keep as close as he can to the back of that McLaren without losing downforce, of course, and losing momentum through one of the most challenging sections of corners here at Spa-Francorchamps. He does a good job to keep the car stable, shortcuts a little bit at the top at Radion, but now Fadley Reichmatt, this is the opportunity to stay in the slipstream as long as you possibly can. Go to the inside, the door has been left open but closed very, very last minute. Two wheels on the grass. Fadley Reichmatt decides it is not worth pursuing that manoeuvre just yet, and Ryan Houlihan with a bit of an aggressive defensive stance there against the car behind. But while these two are fighting, of course, they're becoming more and more detached from the battle ahead.
Great stuff, but as you say, they're losing track position to the Lexus ahead, and they are being caught as well by the chasing pack. Reichmatt could have possibly made that stick. There was enough room for the Bentley, but going on the grass, perhaps the grass was a bit slippier and he just wasn't able to keep the momentum going, so bailed out of it. But that's what he needs to do, to be honest. That's as aggressive as he needs to be if he's going to try and get past Houlihan, who is not as fast, but certainly is able to put his car in the right place.
He is indeed. Now we're looking a little bit further down the running order. This is Ko Yim in 13th position. So Yim, remember, we've seen him involved in a bit of drama with Yuki Shirakawa and also Luis Moreno as well. They stay as they were at this moment in time. Shirakawa not really finding the pace to move away from this battle, having made his way past Yim a couple of laps ago. And Luis Moreno, last time I spoke about him, was on the attack, now has a little bit of lap time to find, but a benefit for Moreno is Ho behind in the number 27 machine has dropped back to the tune of 1.3 seconds. So Moreno now has a little bit of an opportunity to concentrate on what's happening ahead of him, to chase down the bike of that car. Another steward's warning here, instant on lap one, involving car number 16 and 696. A warning for car 16 for aggressive driving. 16 is, of course, the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 of Sim Racing Filipinas, and Alessio Calapano was the first time I think we've seen him in the series this year. So not the best way to set a first impression, but still he lives to fight on as he continues the battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder that only the top 5 progress into the next race. Huge accident! Oh, massive one at the top of Radion.
Is one of the most high-speed crashes we've seen in the entirety of this championship. Massive incident at the top of Radion. There's Kelvin Chen straight down pit lane as well in 8th position, so that's one of the cars in Zafar as well, and Pratima in the number 18. So Pratima out of the race, Chen out of the race as well. So we've seen this in real life at the top of Eau Rouge and Radion a few times in recent time. Lose control of the car, and then everybody cannot do anything about it in the chasing pack. Contact is had, but meanwhile that moves this little fight that we're looking at now well inside the points playing paces. Shirakawa the big beneficiary in 9th position. Yim in P10, and Lewis Moreno trying to fight his way back up again in 11th place. And that has motivated Kaio Yim, it seems now, to be all over the back of Shirakawa's Bentley Continental. And remember, Ben, points in the top 10 places. This is a good opportunity to score a nice haul of points for these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some, elevate themselves quite easily into the top 3 positions, because outside of our Dayne Warren leader and potentially winner by the end of this race, it's very close actually between the rest of the field because of the way that we distribute points and because of the field spread that we've got here. So yes, we've got somebody who's dominating, but everyone else is really, really close, and you know, there's still a decent amount of prizes on offer for people inside the top 3, top 5 positions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also the cash prizes for the top 5 drivers. So the higher you finish in the order, the better off you will be at the end of the season. But of course, for racing drivers, yes, of course, prize money is always a good thing, but it's also about just getting the best result you can. As Yim now comes under a little bit of pressure from Lewis Moreno. Moreno goes to the inside. That pushes Yim wide onto the brakes. A little bit of contact as well as the cars ahead are checking up. There's potentially a back marker involved in that as well. That has compromised Kaio Yim now. Lewis Moreno sees an open door, decides he's going to go through that one without any second invitation, but there are slower cars to the inside as well, so Moreno now needs to be very, very cautious, and he decides better to back out of it, get through these slower cars that are not quite as predictable, I think, as these drivers would like them to be. And this is a difficult time, isn't it, for a racing driver when you've got lap traffic, especially when they're perhaps a little bit less experienced than you and your immediate rivals.
And especially when you don't know about them. You know, as a racing driver, you start to establish a picture of all the different drivers that you race against and how they react to certain situations. Some are more aggressive than others, and so with a driver coming in for the first time in the format that we have here, where you can hot lap your way into a race, it is, for the more experienced, a bit more tricky and a bit more on edge and scary to be cutting through traffic. You really need to be able to trust it. Let's get a replay of the start again and watch, remember, the middle of the pack where we had somebody cut across the inside of Radion and wipe out a few cars.
Yeah, so there we go. Look, Ben, there's a little bit of contact there immediately between the Audi. That brings him straight back into the middle of the racetrack, and just like 10-pin bowling, you go down into the middle and ping, 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 ping. People are off all over the place. That's unfortunately 42 cars on a very small, fast bit of racetrack, and that's what happens.
Yeah, and there was another crash actually separately at the top of Radion, I think. So the contact with the Lamborghini was going into Eau Rouge. Actually, at the bottom of the hill, he was rebounding off the barrier to coming back across the track, which is when I picked up the incident. But then there was a separate one going on at the top of the hill, and it just shows if you haven't got the processes correct, if you haven't got the temperature in the tyres, and you're not careful enough on the opening lap through Eau Rouge, then it's so easy to make an error.
Yeah, when ambition is higher than grip, these kind of things happen as we're looking at another replay. So let's check out the second part of the incident. We saw the contact at the bottom of the screen. Then let's have a look a little bit further up. That's a Ferrari trying to go around the outside, just collecting the Lamborghini that we saw actually being lapped earlier on. And then sadly, 2 or 3 cars get involved. A BMW pirouetted at the bottom of the screen as well. So that's the Ferrari basically trying to go too wide over the brow of Eau Rouge, running out of racetrack, just collecting the rest of the field, and then, as we've seen already, it is straight to the scene of the accident.
Ruckman now a little bit off the tail of Houlihan, isn't he? So the pressure off for the moment for Houlihan, who was second last time out at Misano. That was his first point score of the year, but with 1 second position, he's already 6th in the championship. Such is the field spread. And actually, not so many people have been able to score in all 3 races. That's... Yes, okay, so Dayne Warren has scored in all 3 races the best possible points he can. But ultimately, consistency, just getting a couple of points in every race is so important in these races where it seems like so much can happen. For the moment, though, we haven't had any rain, and it all seems to be okay. I don't know whether you've got eyes on the in-game data to suggest if we are going to get rain, but it seems to be consistent at the moment.
Yeah, at this stage in proceedings, I think we're going to have a dry run through to the flag, but there's still plenty of time to see how that unfolds. Now, Lewis Moreno, He's not quite been as fast as I expected him to be at the early stage of this race. He's dropped back a little bit from the fight ahead of him. But let's have a quick look, actually. It's a replay now that we're looking at. Again, this is the run up Eau Rouge where all the drama has been taking place today. That's an Audi gets too much curb up the inside, straight back onto the racetrack, and that, wow. Let's hope he's not wearing VR goggles for that one, because he'll be a bit sick.
Oof, yes, that would be very, very, very painful, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's an easy mistake to make, Ben, isn't it? Get a little bit too much curb, unsettle the car. The barriers are so close to the side of the racetrack, you just can't help but bounce back onto the racing line. And there's nothing at all, is there, that the other drivers can do in that scenario? It's onto them, and they're straight into the accident before they even recognise what's happened.
And that's the key thing about Eau Rouge and Raidillon. You are so on the limit and edge of grip that if you're trying to react to something that's happening ahead of it, if you back off, then you're going to have an accident yourself. You need to be committed. Pit lane is open, and Luis Moreno straight into the pits. Ragmas straight into the pits. Lee straight into the pits as well. So bang goes my theory of wait until the rain comes. They are all coming in and doing their thing straight away.
Now, this is interesting. This is contrary to what we've seen traditionally in this championship, as Ben rightly says. People tend to leave it to the very, very, very last moment to make their stop. So these drivers now, they'll have been whispered in their ear by their team engineers that there is a potential gap on the racetrack that they can slot back into, or they've been involved in a fight where they believe the cars they're racing are holding them up, as I'm sure will be the case for the likes of Luis Moreno. So get out of the way of that fight now, get into some fresh air and unleash the pace, the natural pace that you believe you've got. Now, we've got 10 minutes for this pit window to unfold, so things are going to be a little bit confusing. But Ben, there are a lot of cars coming in very, very early. Do you think could this be an advantage? Do you think an undercut's going to be powerful here?
Well, an undercut only works when you change tyres and you get yourself a new set of grip. They're not doing that. They don't have to change tyres here. They don't have to really even refuel. It's simply a regulation thing to just mix up the field a little bit. So unless they were stuck in traffic, and we did have a bit of traffic, that's for sure. I don't know. It's just their choice, I guess, and they may have seen that we're definitely not going to get rain, and therefore, yeah, why not?
Yeah, interesting tactics, so we'll see how that unfolds in a very short while. Kaio Yin, though, is not worried about pit strategy at all at this stage in the race. He fancies a way past the Bentley Continental GT3 of Yuki Shirakawa ahead. They're 7th and 8th now, courtesy of the dramas on track a little bit earlier on, and of course the pit stops as well. This will be interesting, Ben, to see if Yim decides to continue this fight or bails down pit road and looks to get himself a little bit of clean air at the end of the lap. So we'll keep our eye on that one. What would you do? Put yourself in the shoes of this man, Kuyo Kim. Do you stay on track or do you dive down pits?
Depends how he's feeling. Depends if he's feeling like he's being held up by the car in front, and also what kind of space, now that the window is open, what kind of space is there available when he comes back out onto the racetrack. He does dive to the pit lane, so he decides that he is being held up. But, you know, if he comes out back into traffic, then that's a lost leader. You suddenly find yourself being held up. And Ryan Houlihan ahead is also pitted. So the top 4 stay out, but Houlihan is now the fastest man, let's say, that has pitted. And you can see those that have pitted on the graphics with the green little dot, and then others getting drive-through penalties. Now, we've got a drive-through penalty for Abreski, I think it is, down in 23rd position. For track limits, and we've, I guess, got another one for the 77 Honda there that's just popped up with a drive-through penalty. Because usually, if we've got, otherwise we get the details from the from race control, which I think actually we are going to get. So he has been a naughty boy out there. There you go, drive-through for avoidable contact.
So that's a shame for Asaki. A drive-through penalty is going to be a very expensive penalty indeed, and of course that will not count towards his mandatory pit stop either, so Asaki will need to serve that immediately to give himself time to get back in again and serve his mandatory pit stop. Meanwhile, Ryan Houlihan down into 12th position, still on pit road, just exit back on to the racetrack now. He's the leader of the drivers that have served their pit stop, and Chun Ho running a little bit wide in the BMW. That's compromised him, and allowed the rest of the cars through again. So, as Ben said, the little green marker indicates when they've served their mandatory stop. So we'll see who comes out as a winner and a loser in this little battle. Meanwhile, Dayne Warren continues the charge, the mechanical charge at the front of the field, like a machine, not putting a foot wrong so far. 7 seconds to the good of the chasing pack. Rico Cosse that we're looking at now, number 666, in 20th position. He's been down pit road, so maybe a little bit of advantage, plenty of clean track in front of him to try and push as much lap time out of that car. But look at this, Ben, that is a busy pit lane.
Yeah, isn't it? Absolutely crazy to see. And now I can't really work out why it is so busy. I think it's just that some are coming in, some are coming out, and they're all on the same piece of racetrack right now. But we're watching our race leader, Dayne Warren, hasn't had any coverage at all from us because he's been so fast. And of course, his pit box is all the way down at the bottom of the hill for being on the pole position. And that has handed Dylan Tan the race lead. The Ferrari has been about 8 seconds back, hasn't he? And he will at least have 1 or 2 laps with that honour of being the race leader. Pit window opens for another 4.5 minutes, and Maulana also yet to pit.
Yeah, so this is tricky times now for Dayne Warren. He's going to want to try and clear himself of that traffic as quickly as possible, not get involved in any shenanigans and fisticuffs on pit road. And there we go, actually, that's worked out really, really nice for the VRS Coanda driver. A little bit of clear air in front and behind. The cars ahead of him will be going a lap down, so they're no one he needs to worry about. Ryan Dong as well down pit lane. So Dayne Warren getting back up to speed. The climb up the hill. Eau Rouge to your right hand side, to his right hand side. He'll very carefully abandon. It's very, very bumpy at the exit of the pit lane, but Dayne Warren continues on nicely.
Here's Ryan Houlihan. He was the best of the stoppers before we went into all the rest of them stopping on this lap. And did we see Rahmat into pit lane already? Because it's saying that he's orange, which means he hasn't pitted. But Rahmat was... that's a bit odd, isn't it? Because Rahmat was behind Just, and now he's in front Just. So it looks as though he's jumped a position there, but he hasn't registered as doing a pit stop, which can be a variety of things, including just failing to put a single litre of fuel in. But of course, by not putting that single litre of fuel in, you don't register as a pit, but he would end up behind. So that's bad news for Rahmat.
Yeah, that is an absolute disaster. We've seen this before this season, not completing the mandatory requirement to serve that stop. He may have been in pit lane, he may have stopped in his box, but if you don't put that litre of fuel in, that is not going to class as what you need to do. So finally, Rahmat has been down pit lane. He's taken the pain that comes with it, but he needs to do it again, otherwise he will be disqualified from this race. And for Fadli Rahmat, essentially, he's given himself a drive-through penalty for no reason whatsoever, and that, unfortunately, I think, for this driver in the number 62, has made points today a very, very difficult prospect indeed, which means Andika Rama Malana is now the only driver that can keep this championship alive into the final round of the season at Suzuka on October the 14th. So if you're Dayne Warren, he must have a 5-leaf clover farm, because he's fast, he's talented and prepared, and he's also had a very nice rub of good fortune today.
The thing is, you do... in those situations, that's where you rely upon your team. That's why we hear in Formula One or whatever that the race engineer getting on the radio and saying, what engine map they need to switch to. Don't forget the pit lane speed limiter. They repeat those things for exactly that reason. You would expect the Rahmat would have everything sorted, and now he comes down pit lane again. You would expect there wouldn't be any issues. He wouldn't forget, but because he's got so much other stuff to go happening, it's so easy just to forget to go click.
Yeah.
And he's realised that, and he's come down pit lane for a second time, and he's now going to fall outside of the points. and that's a disaster. Well, for Rachmat, Lawrenson also starting the day up in 4th in the championship. He's not going to be scoring points down in 22nd right now. So really, as you said earlier, Maulana is the only man that can do anything. And I think Maulana has jumped De Jong. I don't know whether he was in 2nd position before pit stops. I think he might have got past this Lexus.
So we've got Dylan Tan Long, currently our race leader, but down pit road. Mia Rose that we're looking at now, she's leaving this very, very late indeed to serve that mandatory stop. We'll watch Mia Rose for a few more corners. You can see at the top of your screen, 17 seconds left on the clock for her to enter pit lane. So she'll make it, but by the absolute skin of her teeth. Watch her pull to the right-hand side now. There we go. Enter pit lane. So that is good timing for Mia Rose. She's going to serve her mandatory stop as well from 2nd position on the racetrack. That will become a lot further down the running order once that's washed out. Dayne Warren, as expected, retains the race lead. Andika Ramamulana will now inherit 2nd position.
Oh, will he? Because of Dylan Tan. We don't know where Dylan Tan is going to fall into yet. And I think it is Dylan Tan that was in 2nd position. He was the best of the Ferraris, wasn't he? So we're waiting to see where Dylan falls into line in comparison to Maulana.
Now this will be interesting. We're looking at Ryan Dong now. That is Maulana ahead of us as well in the 889. So they're coming through the bus stop. Dylan Tan still on pit road. So this one's going to be very close. But don't forget, Ben, Dylan Tan, when he exits pit lane, will have cold tyres. These two have tyres very much at racing temperature. So I would not want to beat Dylan Tan in this situation.
Let's see. Here comes Dylan Tan out of pit lane. As you say, he's got to get everything up to temperature. He's a long way ahead, though, of our chasing pack on the right-hand side. And I think that should be deal done. They'll be up to pretty much momentum now. And these guys climbing the hill, we'll be able to see him in the distance, but he retains the position. So indeed, Dylan Tan 2nd, Maulana 3rd, De Jong 4th.
Fantastic stuff at the start of the field. So we've got really no real big winners or losers at the very head of the grid. Shirakawa doing a good job to retain a place within the top 10. So Shirakawa doing great work in 10th position. These two are fighting over the bottom step of the podium as we see Maulana getting a little bit squirrely over the curbs just in front of us. But Maulana doing good work at the moment. He really needed to win this race. If he wins it, Dayne Warren will be champion by finishing 5th or higher. If Maulana finishes in 2nd position, Dayne Warren will be champion by finishing 9th or higher. If Maulana finishes where he stands at the moment in 3rd, Dayne Warren will be champion. So Warren needs a nightmare, Maulana needs some positions, and 22 minutes left on the clock. I think this is almost pretty much trophy in the post of VRS Coanda.
Unless the rain comes. We don't know whether it's coming. You know, we're still in this grey cloudiness, and if the rain comes and they all have to jump into the pit lane, you know, depending on when you pit, lap 1 or lap 2 of rain can be a huge difference. And so, you know, it's very easy also to make mistakes. The wet weather simulation of ACC is just incredible. Actually, even less grip than you think you have in the real world. So yeah, let's see if that little spice is going to be added to this race with 22.5 minutes remaining. Make it rain!
Yep, from a purely unbiased commentary perspective, for the pure entertainment of it all. Come on, rain. This is just what we need at this stage in the race. Back to Yuki Shirakawa now, 9th position in the Bentley Continental. He has got Luis Moreno, seemingly race long for company, behind in the Lexus RCF. Moreno now gets a very good run through the back end of the circuit. Shirakawa will stay to the inside for the defence into the bus stop. Moreno tries to cover off all the bases, goes round the outside, no doubt he's going to be run out of racetrack, but Shirakawa, ever the gentleman, gives him enough racing room, and Luis Moreno pulls off the overtake. That pulls through Ho as well, not quite gets the overlap on the Bentley, but Luis Moreno, great bit of driving, and now Ryan Duancon, Odika, Milana firmly to the inside for the run down into Lecom. Milana doesn't have the pace in that Ferrari at this stage in the race, but he does have track position, leaving black lines on the tarmac as both drivers maximising the speed within their cars. And Andika Milana survives, but Ryan Duang behind, he wants this. He feels like he has got the speed to take this podium position away.
Great racing, really entertaining stuff. And lovely to see the Lexus up so high in the field. The way that the balance of performance has been put together here, making sure that all the cars are equal to each other. Yes, of course, the Bentley has dominated in the hands of Dayne Warren, but I feel as though that's more down to Coanda and to Dayne than to do the car. Ferraris always seem to be strong, and we've got second and third in this particular race, but to have a Lexus in fourth kind of proves how good Dong is doing this race, considering also how little points he has in the championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Drive-through penalty for Mia Rose in car number 909 for avoidable contact. So that will be the contact with Lawrenson that we saw a few laps ago. So Mia Rose, 12th position at the moment. She'll be heading down pit lane at some stage in the next 3 laps. Meanwhile, Shirakawa, that we spoke about quite a bit during this race, he lost position to Luis Moreno on the last lap. Fought very, very hard indeed to try and recover it. Made him go a little bit deep, unfortunately, into one of the corners, and now Yuki Shirakawa is under pressure from the chasing pack. Another drive-through penalty as well, this time for Fadile Rakmat. So, oh dear, for Rakmat, things are getting from bad to worse, and that is day over, I'm afraid, at this stage.
Yep, that is game over. No points, and what a shame for the championship. What a shame for us at the championship. He's been consistently third position the first 2 rounds of the championship, but then no points last time out. And there is the passing move. De Jong getting himself... is that up ahead into third position? It is. Ahead of Milana.
That was very, very intelligent indeed by Ryan de Jong. Decided not to go for the attack into the La Source hairpin. Got the best run, got the switchback on the Ferrari and drag race down into Eau Rouge. So very, very intelligent driving indeed from Ryan de Jong, and from Milana caught sleeping there a little bit, I think. And now this will be interesting to see. Does the Lexus have the pace to run away from the Ferrari, or can Milana do anything about his young rival? Meanwhile, Sek Ying Ho in the number 27 machine. This is the fight continuing for 10th position, again to the outside into Lecom. Again, Shirakawa on the inside. Both cars brake as late as they can. Unfortunately, Sek Ying Ho decides not going to make the corner, cuts over the sleeping policeman. He'll have to give that position back, which he's about to do now, as Shirakawa just about lives to fight for another corner.
So close though, isn't it? And great defensive work from Shirakawa. He's bringing in another car into the pack as well, and that is a benefit to him, of course, because it means that the Aston Martin needs to then look at the mirrors as well as looking forwards. So that means he's distracted a little bit, and he won't just purely be attacking him. So nice work from Shirakawa there, and Ho will be now more concerned about the Ferrari behind.
And it's such a shame as well for Mia Rose, who had to bail from this fight to serve her drive-through penalty. She would have been very much in that fight as well for the final points-paying position. Here we're looking now on board with the BDE Motorsports car of Mitch Hobbs, 24th position for the Honda NSX at this stage in the race. Again, another very, very nice brand. Great to see it racing here at Spa-Francorchamps, but unfortunately for Hobbs and Nasaki ahead of him, not quite giving him the speed they need to be in the points-paying fight. But Sek Yin Ho now 11th position, dropping back from Shirakawa. So Shirakawa making hay while the proverbial sun shines in 10th place. This is Coase as well in 15th. Mironenko for company, and a drive-through penalty has just been applied to the Audi R8 LMS as we speak about him. So Mironenko will be aware of that one. Will no doubt let the sister Audi let the Audi pass, not get involved. In fact, actually, Coase decides to go and visit some tarmac runoff area. So not a good couple of corners for the flying Estonian.
And heads into pit lane. It's a drive-through for track limits. So interesting to see how many people are just ending up with track limits infringements here, because it's not something you really associate to this platform, but they're obviously taking the liberties of cutting a bit too much. He went wide, of course, at Blanchimont, and maybe have assumed a benefit. The game decides that you've benefited from doing so, or indeed Eau Rouge is another place where you cut. And Rico, taking the opportunity to grab a little bit of a drink whilst he's in pit lane. It's a long old time before he gets back out to track.
Yeah, but we're looking now at Yugo Osaka, done another good overtaking manoeuvre. I believe that was on Nigel Chua, so the hobbled Mercedes behind. No match for Osaka on the recovery drive in the HPD Yas Pro Asia entry, the number 77 machine that you see on your screen now. Osaka's been involved in more than his fair share of drama so far, but doing a reasonably solid job to try and stay in contact at the very least with the top 20. Baldwin, the next man up the road, but he is to the tune of 14 seconds up the road. So I fear now Osaka has made all the time up he is going to make in this race, and 21st position will feel like little reward for what has been a drama-filled race. In fact, as I say that one, he goes in the 20th position because somebody's coming out of pit road. Meanwhile, the man that you see on your screen now, Seki Ho, is still trying to find a way past Shirakawa, and Sudika is now bought into this fight for good measure as well.
I'm afraid, bad news, no rain is forecast. So all that build-up that we had at the start, I'm blaming the producer that fed us with loads and loads of rainy shots and night shots at the start of the race, giving us the opportunity to think maybe it's possible. But actually, as you well know, Paul, when we've had rain here at Spa before, we've had some pretty chaotic races, kind of messy races, because it's just so hard.
To be fair, Ben, I think everybody's done a very good job of chaotic and messy anyway in dry conditions. So maybe it's a good thing that the tarmac is staying dry at this stage in the race. And this is now pretty much the fight of the race that we're looking at on our screens at this moment in time. Yuki Shirakawa, 10th position still. Sek Yin Ho, the middle car, the Aston Martin that you're looking at now, in 11th place, trying to find a way past. But while these two continue to squabble, Sudaka behind in the BMW. BMW's a car we don't see much of at the sharp end of the field here in the Asia Series, is starting to buy into that fight as well. Wang, that we're looking at now, is also chasing Andrew Lawrenson. Lawrenson hobbled contact earlier in the day. And speaking of Laundry House for a moment, Lawrenson's fourth in the championship with 24 points to his name. But Ryan Houlihan, his teammate, the number 99 machine in the McLaren, is currently in 6th position with 18 points. So if Houlihan stays in P5, he's got a very good chance of overtaking his teammate in the standings, which will no doubt be a source of great pleasure for the Australian Laundry House team.
Yeah, great team at Laundry House. Really entertaining team with their press releases last year as well, and a nice group of people who just love their motorsport. I seem to remember Andrew Lawrenson's a lawyer by day, let's say, and then a racing driver by night, or a sim racing driver by night. But they're not the classic kind of kids team. They are, many of them, fully grown adults, let's say, Paul, like you and I, and a real stalwart of Asian ACC.
And also, I think they're very serious and very talented about what they do, but they like to do it with a laugh. They like to enjoy
How very
themselves.
Australian, right?
Yes, exactly. And you can see that from the way that they behave in interviews, and purely from the fact they've got the Leighton House Formula 1 classic 90s colour scheme takeoff with the name Laundry House as well. Really, they're good ambassadors for their sport in their region, and it's great to see the cars up at the sharp end of the grid. Good guys having a good time, but taking it seriously as well.
As Ryan Houlihan, who's flying the flag as the leading Laundry House car. Maulana isn't that far away, but Maulana is able to stay with the pace of De Jong ahead. So everything seems to have kind of settled down as we've got another drive-through penalty being handed out. So from what we saw earlier, isn't it? Is that another one? Because didn't we see Kos doing his drive-through penalty earlier? And that's another drive-through penalty for him. So yeah, he's well out of the mix now.
Yeah, the 666 machine having a real bad time. As we saw him on screen last time, he was awarded a drive-through penalty, then made the mistake while we were talking about that one and earned himself another one. So the 666 car is having a bad day, and Seki Yin Ho now still fighting for everything he's worth in the Z Challenger racing machine. Not quite in the points paying positions yet, still 11th position, still with the Bentley Continental GT3 all the way filling his windshield ahead, but now through No Name gets a very, very good run. Shirakawa recognises what's happening and goes to the inside as we cut to Mitch Hobbs to the outside now. Back to Set Ying Ho, round the outside of the left hand, and nothing really doing there. He's going to try and bring the car back to the apex again, but don't forget these tyres now are starting to get a little bit worn after 50 minutes of hard racing. He's not quite got the front end of the car as he possibly wants at this stage in the race, and the Aston Martin can't quite get to the inside, and Shirakawa just about clings on to that 10th position.
And therefore points, that's very, very important. We're 1 point, okay, not a huge amount. How many Shirakawa got across the whole season? I don't think he's got any, actually, so that's 100% more than he had before. Only 20 drivers in the field of 44 have scored points across the season, and some of the drivers that have scored points we're not seeing again. So Sekian Ho to the outside line, trying to find a way past, and there isn't a space there. Again, another man who is yet to score points.
Yeah, this is by far and away the most convincing performance we've seen from Shirakawa this season or last. And it's interesting to see, Ben, as we're talking there for the move into the bus stop chicane. Last time Shirakawa had somebody at the inside, he gave him racing room. No such benefit this time. Shirakawa knows this is the final throws of this race, the last 9.5 minutes. If he can hold on for just 4 more laps, this will be points, very hard-earned points as well. Maybe a bit of fortune came his way to get himself up into this position, but he certainly showed all the attributes needed. Again, immediately defensive on the Kemmel straight, knows this is the danger zone for himself and his car. The outside goes Ho. Can he get enough braking power in the Aston Martin? Oh, eventually, very nice and easy indeed. 10th position.
Claiming the inside of the left-hander, which is what his aim was there, but I have to say, Shirakawa being very polite there, not fighting it, not trying to run him out of space. Now Ho is going a bit defensive, as we've got battle behind as well, side by side. I think is that a back marker getting out in the way? I think it may well be. But through Speaker's Corner, Shirakawa not equal to Ho, and actually now the pace seems to have increased, doesn't it? And they're scuttling away from the Ferrari behind.
Yeah, it's kind of. I was a little bit disappointed about that one. It was turning out to be a dramatic race. It ended up being a very easy, clean cut overtaking manoeuvre for Ho at the end of the day. And Shirakawa still can hold his head high. It's been a very, very impressive performance from the number 39 machine, even if points aren't eventually on offer at the end of it. And as you say, Sudica behind, getting involved in the back marker that seems to have been pretty much involved in. Oh no, there we go, actually. That is, yeah, the back marker, the 29th place car, just getting himself involved where it's not necessary. So that Lamborghini has been in a bit of drama all the way through this race. It needs to really calm down a little bit, I think.
I think what's confusing there is actually that is Singh and Ho that are battling on the same piece of track as the two guys ahead, who are actually a lap ahead. So there are two battles going on there, but they're not actually on the same lap.
Oh, we don't need any of these kind of dramas. It's hard enough as it is without this, but that just goes to show, doesn't it, Ben, how fast these cars are. 10th and 11th position have easily lapped into the top 20.
Yeah, so actually the Ferrari is now 5.4 seconds back of this group. And was part of the fight, so that's a bit of a shame for the number 2 Ferrari. Sorry, my graphics is not good enough to pronounce the name. Sudhakar.
Yes, he has dropped. I wonder what's happened there, actually, because he
was really, part of it, right?
Yeah, he was really looking towards getting involved in this fight. So Sudhaka's really lost a bit of momentum as Shirakawa again getting stuck into some of the traffic. That's a BMW that is making or trying to make his way through at this stage in the race. So blue flags and traffic.
That's Ho a lap down, overtaking him, putting a car between himself and the guy he's fighting for. What? Oh no, hang on. Now is that Ho who's gone up to 10th position? I'm really confused. It's another Ho. There are two Ho's out there, and that BMW is a different Ho to the one, the other Ho that's past him, if that's making any sense at all. But actually, look how fast they're scuttling away. At this point in time, Shirakawa has no pace at all.
Yeah, the pace has completely dropped off. The tyres have completely dropped off. Shirakawa's recognised the fact that he's got himself a little bit of a gap now to Suzuka behind. He's carrying a little bit of damage as well, and now it's very much a case of just trying to consolidate for Shirakawa, get himself out of the danger zone, let that Lamborghini go, and just bring the car home in 11th position, which, as I said a few moments ago, is still a very strong result regardless for the Japanese driver. But really struggling for pace at this stage, Ben, with the damage.
Yeah, and sometimes it's difficult to see on ACC just how much damage the cars are running with, but he's certainly feeling it, isn't it? Right, we switch our attention up to 4th position. Ryan Houlihan taking the shortcut at Radion there, but he's caught Maulana, and Maulana is now 2.6 back from de Jong, so that Ferrari has not got the pace in the second half of the race either.
And we've seen this, I think, during the course of the season as well, that the Ferrari just struggles over the course of a full stint. And now Milano, as you say, has worked the car very hard in the early stages of the race. Didn't have the pace to keep with our race leader, Dayne Warren, understandably. Trying to fight, keeping the fight for second position. And it looks like that car is just not quite hooked up as much as Andika Ramanalana needs it to be at this stage of the race. And Ryan Houlihan has been on a charge for the last 20 minutes or so. He fancies his chances of that 4th position. Ramanalana will, of course, defend it. There's only 4 minutes and 26 seconds left on the clock. But at this stage in the proceedings, Ryan Houlihan is very much the man on the charge. As Luis Moreno we're looking at now, 9th position. Ho just behind him, Yim just ahead, and Moreno having a very good race as well in that Lexus for Legion of Racers, a very popular team, of course, Legion of Racers, so good to see them having another strong outing with a couple of their cars firmly in the top 10.
And Moreno, another of those drivers who's not got points, so we're going to have a lot of people here scoring points for the first time. And I feel as though outside of the lead position, we're going to have a real mix-up in the top 10 in the championship order going towards that last round of the sprint championship. They've still got a couple of races in the endurance style. The 10 hours of Suzuka not happening due to issues, technical issues last week it was, I think. So they've still got to run the Suzuka 10 hours.
And that's a great circuit, isn't it, to have an endurance race on Suzuka, one of the all-time classic racetracks in the world. So I'm thoroughly looking forward to that one as Madison gets himself a 10-second penalty added to his race time in 14th position. So that is Madison car number 60 taking part of HPD Yas Pro Asia. Disappointing times for Madison. He's going to drop down the running order once the checkered flag waves. And Ben Constanduras, 3 minutes left on the clock. For your money, who's been the driver of the race?
Oh, that's a difficult one, because you have to say that Dayne Warren is a class above the rest. He's pulled out 15 seconds on Dylan Tan across the race, but we haven't seen anything of him, have we? And so we don't really know how he's been driving. There he is, chilled out in his rig, looking very relaxed. Got absolutely nothing to worry about. And I don't know whereabouts he is located, because obviously the VRS Coanda team have a headquarters in Germany where they all sit in the same area and same room basically and race with each other. But Dayne Warren being over in Asia, I don't think he has that facility. There is somebody in the background of his shot who was driving earlier on and is no longer. So I don't know whether that's one of his teammates and they've found a place to race together in Australia in the same room. But whoever he was racing with is not racing anymore.
Yeah, but he's doing it. It's been a typical Dayne Warren performance today. He put the car on pole position, had tons of pace over the opposition in qualifying, just executed the race perfectly. No drama, no dramatics, never getting himself really into a risky position, and just ticking off the laps exactly as he needs to do. Just doing the job, no fuss, scoring the points. And if and when he does secure this championship in the next 1 minute 20 something seconds, that'll be an incredibly deserving champion. 4 races, 4 victories. What a performance.
Yeah, and I think that'll be our first champion, won't it, Paul? You know, you've done all the different championships across the SRO series, but I don't know whether we've already crowned any esports champions this year.
We crowned James Baldwin in a small standalone British GT championship at the very start of the year. So when we had the real world drivers,
wasn't counting
GT
that
series. Yeah, that's kind of like a special one. But in terms of the traditional standings, no, this is the first champion, the first SRO Esports champion of 2021. Although we've got 44 seconds left to go, Ben, so let's not count our chickens yet. There's still plenty of opportunity for things to go wrong, as we see Ryan Houlihan proving the point spectacularly, running off Arnaud Rouge hard into the barriers. The car is in the middle of the racetrack. Houlihan trying desperately to get himself out of harm's way, facing the wrong way. Whoa! This is going to be a little bit of final lap drama, and Ryan Houlihan from 5th position to potentially out of the race.
And that must have been a disconnect because he just went straight on into the wall, didn't he? And now he's got control of the steering and pedals again. But for me, he didn't have any control initially. And again, the steering wheel defaulting back to centre. So certainly some kind of hardware technical issue. And that's such a disappointment for Ryan Houlihan, who was looking to get himself into the top 3 in the championship with the performance of today. And he is going to DNF out of it. From a very, very small problem right at the end of the race.
And that just goes to show exactly what we were saying. Perfect timing, as we said. Anything could happen right to the very checkered flag. But now there are only a few corners left to go for this man, Dayne Warren, VRS Co-Anda Simsport. They came into Assetto Corsa Competizione in a big way for the first time this season in SRO competition. And Dayne Warren, from the moment that Bentley Continental hit the track, he has been the dominant man. He weaves the steering wheel from left to right, flashes the lights, takes the checkered flag. Dayne Warren is our race winner here at Spa-Francorchamps and the 2021 GT World Challenge Esports Asia Sprint Series champion for VRS Co-Anda Simsport. A dominant performance, a classy drive, and a worthy champion.
Best result of the season for Dylan Tan, coming across the line in 2nd position in his Ferrari, and that will elevate him up well into the outskirts of the top 3 in the championship, and a good result, one of the best I've ever seen for a Lexus anyway, by De Jong, who hasn't had many points to his name so far this season. 18th only coming in here, and now will be up into the top 10 for sure. Still battling further back.
Yep, still battling into the final corner. That is Kaio Yim in 7th place, holding on just about from a spirited drive from Luis Moreno in 8th position. They crossed the line, 7th and 8th. Here we see Karenin now in 16th place, trying to find a little bit of time to Mironenko ahead, but I think Sergei Mironenko does have enough real estate between himself and the BMW to secure that position. So racing and drama all way to the checkered flag, and Andrew Lawrenson, after his little bit of excitement, is 15th when he crosses the line as well. So Laundry House started the day very well, and it all went very, very wrong indeed. Houlihan classified in 20th position as well. What a dramatic piece of excitement.
And so many of our championship contenders, Rachma, Lawrenson, Houlihan, all missing out on points. We didn't even have Aslan with us, so that has really changed things. Except for this man, Dayne Warren, absolutely commanding, dominant, whatever the superlative you want to use. 4 out of 4 in a 5-round championship, and he is your champion.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, and you can see how much it meant to him there. Still celebrated halfway round the slow down lap as well, doing burnouts for the virtual crowd. And we suspected coming into this race that Dayne Warren would have more than a mightily good chance of wrapping up the championship, and rather than playing the percentage game and keeping it safe, going for points, or even taking his foot off the gas after 3 consecutive race victories, himself and the team continued to work hard, continued to push themselves, and the fruits of that labour have been well and truly served today. A dominant performance, and it's scary when a team like VRS Co-Anda come at it full tilt. It's very hard to keep with them, Ben, isn't it?
Yeah, they are absolutely committed to ACC this year for the first time, committed to these different SRO championships. and really flying that Coanda flag so strongly. Previously only known in one platform, they are very much now a multi-platform team, and great that they have committed to that. Love it.
Yeah, it really is. It's really lifted the level of all the championships they take part in, not least of which this Asia Series. They've got the fan favourite Legion Racers team, of course, and Laundry House that we've spoken about as well. But the Asia region of eSport races is now becoming more and more known in the wider European marketplace, courtesy of championships like the SRO eSport Asia Series. And it's great to see that level of competitiveness rise. Despite the dramas that we had at the start of the race, it is great to see the shop window for these drivers, and I've been thoroughly impressed. And I'm just hearing now in my ear that we have our race winner, and more importantly, our brand new champion, Dayne Warren. How does it feel to be SRO Asia Series champion?
Yeah, thanks guys. Pretty cool. I wasn't expecting to get a win in this series, and to grab all 4 in the first 4 rounds is just a really cool feeling. So yeah, the moon at the moment.
Yeah, congratulations. It's brilliant performance. Talk us through how your race has gone today.
Well, I guess it's sort of the story of the season. We called it. We get off to a good start and just sort of cruise home from there. Dylan was sort of hanging on in the first stint, but I think he made an error in the sort of the stop and lost a lot of time afterwards. So yeah, I can't complain really. It's just been a really nice and easy season.
Yeah, you've done great stuff. Now, is it difficult, Dayne, when you've dominated so much, to keep pushing into the next race, to keep that level up race after race?
Well, as I was talking to Philippa before the race, I actually didn't get much practice at all for this round. I was competing in the Supercars E Series just yesterday, so didn't have much practice tonight. But yeah, going into any round I try and sort of put as much effort as I can into it to get the most out of it. And yeah, hopefully that shows in the results.
It does indeed. It's frightening prospect for your rivals that this is Dayne Warren without much practice. An absolutely dominant performance. And of course, we've still got 1 round left to go. Are you looking for a perfect 5 from 5 at Suzuka?
Yeah, I'd hope so. Maybe I'm not sure what the rules are, but I'd love to jump into another car and maybe give that a go, just for a bit of fun, and I mean just get another view.
Yeah,
just sort of something different, if you know what I mean. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
Well, fantastic stuff. And of course, VRS Coanda SimSport, relatively new to the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform. So don't know if you want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to your team, of course, that have provided the car and the platform in which to put this dominant win together.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously big thanks to the team. Everyone puts in an immense amount of effort for the rounds. I know I'm by myself, but regardless, they always get behind and support me every single round. And yeah, obviously sponsors VRS, Virtual Racing School, Lego Technic. They obviously put quite a lot of backing into the team as well, and really helps us to achieve what we do week on week.
Fantastic. Well, Dayne Warren, absolutely dominant drive. Congratulations again, and the very first 2021 SRO Esports champion here in the Asia Series. Well done. Congratulations to you, the team, and everybody involved.
Yep. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Brilliant stuff. That was Dayne Warren there, our race winner, not for the first time this season, for the 4th time this season, and now takes the championship trophy as well. An incredible performance from everybody at VRS Coanda SimSports, and the man himself, Dayne Warren, down there in Australia, really showing the Asia Sprint Series how it's done. And while we've been speaking to Dayne, unfortunately Ben's had to get off, so goodbye on the behalf of Ben Constanduras, and thank you from both of us and from, of course, Fanatec, AWS, Pirelli, Kudos Simulazione, AK Esports, the Sim Grid, the Stefan Rattel organisation as well, for being with us on this journey today. And we're back once again at Suzuka for the Sprint Series on 14th of October. So please do make sure to join us there for what should be a great end to what has been an absolutely fabulous season. My name has been Paul Jeffrey. On behalf of all of us here at SRO Esports, thank you for tuning in, and until next time, bye bye.